All right, hello 10th grade. This is your second notes video for the week. That second section of biology notes that I was telling you you're gonna get. You're actually gonna get sections 2 and 3 in this video, and next week you will get the remainder of this chapter, chapter 19. Hopefully, if things go the way planned, you'll get a grasshopper video before the week is over as well, a grasshopper dissection video. But we'll see. Sometimes life happens, and you just gotta roll with it, guys. And right now, grasshopper might not be rolling with it, but we'll see. All right. So, echinoderms and rotifers, or rotifers, some people pronounce it both ways. Echinoderms is what we're going to look at first. Echinoderms are all spiny-skinned animals. Now, spiny-skinned, I guess I should have written this better when I made your notes. Spiny-skinned as far as sea animals go, okay? Porcupines don't fall into the echinoderm family, all right? So it includes starfish, sea urchins, sand dollars, sea cucumbers, and brittle stars. We might get to do a starfish when you guys come back. We'll see. I would love to. They're pretty fun to cut open. But all are marine animals with spines that grow from a mesh-like internal skeleton. Their skeleton isn't actually hard, brittle bone like our skeletons would be or other animal skeletons would be. All right, it's more of a hard mesh, okay? I'm trying to think of like chainmail. Think of like chainmail. That would be a good equivalent that you guys might relate to pretty easily. The water vascular system. Now this is something that is unique to echinoderms. No other animal has this. But the water vascular system, this is a complex system of water-filled tubes that extend through the body that is used as sensory perception, feeding, respiration, and movement. Everything hinges on this water vascular system for them. If something happens to it, it becomes damaged, then they are not going to function very well. They're probably going to die very soon. Rotifers. These are microscopic invertebrates found in freshwater lakes and ponds. These were first discovered by Anton van Leeuwenhoek when he was doing all of his work with the microscope, which we kind of talked about earlier this school year, way back when we were talking about the cell. I don't know if you guys can think all the way back to that, but we did talk about Leeuwenhoek and his work there. The way that the cilia moves on the front of the animal resembles the rotation of a wheel. Now, a cilia is a leg or arm-like organism that propels them or allows them to reach out. It depends on each different animal that contains a cilia or a flagellum, which we'll talk about when we talk about amoebas. But the way it behaves depends on the species that it is on, okay? So some are sessile and some can swim. If you remember, sessile means that they are stationary or they are anchored to something so that they cannot move. And some have the ability to swim. They have complex systems, yet they are only made of 500 to 1,000 cells. I feel like rotifers are actually a really good argument against evolution, all right? Because they are so complex and everything has to work together for them to function so well. Yet they're a teeny tiny organism that don't have very many cells at all. Their eggs can be parthogenic. This means that they don't need to be fertilized. These eggs are laid in the summer, and then eggs laid in the winter have to be fertilized, okay? So it depends on their breeding season, depends on whether or not their eggs have to be fertilized or they can remain unfertilized. Coleanthrates and porifera. Coleanthrates, these are hollow intestine invertebrates. These include your jellyfish, your sea anemones, your corals, and your hydras. These are also known as cnidocytes because they have stinging cells on their body. These stinging cells are used mainly for defense and to help them capture prey. Some characteristics: they have a sac-like body with a central digestive cavity with one opening. So it's kind of gross, but everything that goes in their mouth also has to come out their mouth when it's time to get rid of it, okay? Tentacles are used for capturing prey. They can also be used again to kind of warn off prey. They'll give some jellyfish will give like I don't want to say like a warning sting, but almost like a warning zap, like, hey, don't come over here, leave me alone. And they have a body composed of 2 layers of cells, the ectoderm and the endoderm. The ecto is the outside layer, the endoderm is the inside layer, with jelly-like middle layer known as the mesoglia. 2 body types, the polyp and the medusa. All cnidocytes will fall into one of these 2 body types. Okay, so you have the polyp, which is the cylindrical body that is sessile and the mouth faces upwards. Hydras are a really good example of a polyp body type. I encourage you to look up hydras because they're really cool. They will actually do somersaults all along the ocean floor to move themselves sometimes. So they're pretty cool. You can watch hydras doing somersaults. Anyway, medusas are free-swimming, umbrella-shaped body with the mouth facing downward. The medusa, the best example of this I can think of for you would be the jellyfish. Types of coleanthrates, the hydra, the polyp. So here we are. Like I said, look them up. They're cool. But they're composed of a cylindrical, this should say stalk, guys. This is a typo on my part. Not a cylindrical talk, it's a cylindrical stalk. With a central cavity surrounding the tentacles, okay? This central cavity, known as the gastrovascular cavity, digests the food and sends the food to all parts of the body. However, when it has been digested and it needs to excrete it, it comes back out that same tube. Usually they are attached to something else in the water, but they can slide about the ocean floor or turn somersaults if they need to move. Typically they are attached, typically they don't move, but if they feel the need to move, they have the ability to do it via sliding, like slip and sliding almost, or somersaults. If it is cut into pieces, each piece can grow a complete new hydra. So they have the ability to generate new hydras. That is main, I don't want to say main, it is one way that they reproduce. The jellyfish is a medusa body shape, okay? They move by expelling water from their mouth. Most are only a few inches long. The giant jellyfish can be more than 6 feet in diameter. Jellyfish, if you have been to the, now in my beach experience, let's put it this way. In my beach experience, I have more had to watch for jellyfish along the Atlantic coast of Florida versus the Gulf Coast of Florida. But that doesn't mean that they can't be found on the Gulf. Maybe you've had the vice versa. Normally on the Gulf, I find I have to watch out for stingrays more than jellyfish. And if I'm on the Atlantic, I have to watch out for jellyfish more than stingrays. But that's just in my personal experience. Like I said, maybe you have a different story. But they can go through alternation of generations during reproduction. We talked about alternation of generations a long, long time ago. So go back and look up those notes. It would be in the first couple chapters of notes. What is when we talked about it? When we talked about genes and reproduction. The sea anemone, this is a polyp. It's known as the flower of the ocean because they are very brilliantly colored, they're very bright, and they kind of look like flowers. The mouth is at the top of the organism and it's surrounded by tentacles. They have grooves that extend down their gastrovascular cavity, that allow nutrients to be distributed throughout the whole body, okay? So the digestive system for a cnidocyte, sorry, I have to stop and think what we're talking about. The gastrovascular system for the cnidocyte is the main area of absorption for nutrients to take place. And then corals, these have a polyp body type. Coral reef is the result of corals living in colony. Now, corals can only grow in warm water. I want to say, if I remember correctly, they can't grow in anything less than 70 degrees of water. Check me out on that, I might be wrong. It might be a little less or a little more, but the number 70 is sticking out in my brain. But the body structure is similar to that of an anemone. The main difference is that corals produce a limestone cup at the base of the body to shelter the coral when disturbed. Now, sea anemones, they'll retract themselves, all right, in order to protect themselves or to hide themselves. Corals, they will retract themselves into this limestone cup that they have formed. And the coral reef is actually built up of those leftover limestone cups, okay? The Great Barrier Reef is the world's largest coral reef. It's 50 miles wide and extends for 1,200 miles down Australia's northern coast. I've never been, but I think it'd be cool to go check it out someday. And then Porphyria sponges. Sponges are cool, believe it or not. They're pretty complex. So their bodies are made up of only 2 cell layers, but these 2 cell layers function everything for the sponge. They always grow attached to some object. They are stationary, okay? They are the only multicellular animal, that does not have a rudimentary nervous system. And this is what makes them so cool. Every other animal on the face of the planet has some form of nervous system, but sponges have no nervous system, okay? Not even a remote, not like a brain and a spinal cord, nothing like other animals might have. They function fully off of a set of cells, pretty much, that runs everything in the whole sponge. And the nervous system, if you guys remember when we talked about the nervous system is pretty much the master control for the whole body. If something goes wrong with the nervous system, it's probably going to affect the body in some way, shape, or form. So the fact that they are so complex a creature, but they lack a nervous system, again, I feel is a great argument against evolution. All right, because you have this really diverse, I don't know if diverse is the word I want. This really, we'll go with complex again for lack of a better word. This really complex organism, but it has no nervous system. And I just think that's really cool. It's kind of like, in my opinion, it's kind of like God's way of saying, see, I can do it. Evolution couldn't, but I can. All right. Osculum, or the excrement pore, this is the mouth. It doesn't take in food, it lets waste out. And then the spicules are crystalline support structures of the sponge. This kind of gives the sponge its skeleton, quote unquote. And that's where we're going to stop for the day, guys. We'll pick up with the notes next week. It'll be our last set of notes for the school year next week. So make sure you're on the lookout for them. Hopefully I'll get a grasshopper video to you guys this week as well. I miss you guys, and I'm praying for you.